And we are live, guys. Welcome, women of high value. Welcome to Women of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling, and what we want to talk about today is something that must be talked about. It must be brought up, and you need to receive this information and be educated from a long-term perspective of things, because there's so many different opinions out there about sex outside of marriage, and I just want to share my viewpoints, and hopefully you can get some benefits and value from this video. And if you do, make sure you subscribe and like, because we must get this message out to as many women as possible in order to create a healthy lifestyle and also healthy sexual relationships in marriage, so that we can keep families strong and together. We're going to talk about virgins, and we're going to talk about the benefits of staying a virgin and how you can stay a virgin, and of course how long you should remain a virgin. So let's first talk about the benefits of remaining a virgin, because obviously the benefits in terms of being a virgin is that you won't have any risk whatsoever of unwanted pregnancy and STDs. Now, in terms of unwanted pregnancy, women don't really think that's an issue, because you've got so many different birth control, and you've got condoms, and you've got all those other things that are on the market today. And of course, they help a lot towards unwanted pregnancies. But at the same time, women very often forget that when they're in the act and very horny and actually are gonna have sex with the guy, like, they forget about how they feel or how they're gonna feel in that moment in time. In that moment in time, it's way more comfortable for a woman to not use a condom. It's way more comfortable it's not that big of a deal that I forgot to take the pill. Or, do you understand what I mean? Like, there's so many factors involved there that when you're actually about to have sex, then you kind of, since you're in the moment, you're not thinking straight. It's kind of like you being drunk and then forgetting about everything else because you're focused on the now, you're focused on what's happening. And then you've got the day after pill and all that stuff. But very often, like, women don't understand, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm not going to get pregnant because I have these, I put these things in place so that I won't get pregnant. Yeah, but then what happens when you actually do get pregnant? Because sometimes you don't discover it before it's been a while, and then you now are forced with, should I have an abortion or should I not? You guys have no idea how many women are put in that predicament of, should I actually go through with the pregnancy or should I not? And most often, of course, they go with abortion. That's the number one thing that a woman will basically, my life will be ruined if I have kids right now, so abortion is the best thing to do. And the parents, if they're not from a religious standpoint, very often the religious ones are like, you have to have the baby because abortion is sin and horrific, and you're killing people and all this stuff. But if you're from normal parents who basically don't have that viewpoint, they have a more secular viewpoint, they still, like, they want to make sure that you are protected. You are the most important thing. And I agree with those parents. I agree that your future is most important and you need to be able to choose yourself. But at the same time, going through with an abortion has massive repercussions on your psyche and on you. And you don't want to go through that decision phase. You want to make sure that you stay as far away as possible from that predicament. And if you're with a long-term committed partner, at that moment in time, you guys can decide, you know what? I want to have the baby. And it will be a magnificent thing, especially if it's planned and you guys are excited about it. And so that's just what I want to say on that subject. And that's a benefit from being a virgin. You don't have to go through this. And you don't have to go through the having to have birth control and all that stuff. Other one is STDs, of course. I mean, sometimes even if you're using a condom, things happen and you might contract an STD. What are some other things? Well, benefits of remaining a virgin, a huge one is that you won't have sex with people you don't want to have sex with. Now, that one seems kind of wrong, but if you're kind of careless and get drunk and do whatever you want, there's countless of women who end up having sex with someone and they're like, the day after, they're like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And they understand who they actually had sex with and they regret it and are embarrassed about it for the rest of their lives. Like, if you make a decision once that I'm not going to have sex before I meet the man of my dreams, then it's a lot easier to keep that decision, if that makes sense. Like, if you constantly are like having sex on a regular basis and then suddenly the guy that you actually want to have sex with is not available, then you have to have a new sexual partner. And then because you're drunk, then you're more likely to do it than if you weren't in that predicament at all of having started that process. Like, the longer you wait with having sex, the easier your teenage years are. The easier your 20s are if you get that far, okay? Like, from my experience, the women who have the hardest times in life are those who started to be sexually active like at a very, very young age. And they basically bring that baggage of sexual partners, of experience, of embarrassments, of basically mostly unhappy memories. Yeah, of course, some of those memories are great, but if you're not with that guy anymore that you had a fantastic time with, then like, what was that point? Like, why would you want to have that fantastic memory at a later point in time if you're not with him? Like, how is that going to benefit your future husband? How is that going to benefit you in that relationship with your future husband if he never manages to live up to that experience you had? How is that going to help your kids? How is that going to help society at large if we include them as well? So both the good and the bad memories of a guy that you end up not staying with, like, is kind of wasted, except for the fact that, okay, well, I managed to get my sexual frustrations out from having sex with that guy. But what's the point? Because you're going to be sexually frustrated again next week or next month if you don't have a guy. So you got to set up a system for yourself that you keep yourself as mentally stable as you possibly can in this crazy world that we're living in, and at the same time as you have your reproductive cycle that makes your emotions go up and down, up and down, up and down. Like, you're adding fuel to the fire of mood swings by getting engaged in sexual activity at too early stage, and with a guy that you're not sure is going to be your long-term committed partner. Like, it's unnecessary, and you will be happier if you manage to wait until you find that long-term committed partner. Another benefits of remaining virgin is the fact that you have now done the opposite of what most women do. Now, yes, it is a fact that, the lower on the sexual market value scale you are, in terms of attractiveness and in terms of desirability of men, then in terms of that, if you're not that attractive, then it's easier to remain a virgin throughout your teens and 20s, right? But if you are highly attractive, very feminine, very desirable, then you basically stand out from the crowd. And you have massive value because you're going against the stream. It's always the people who do things differently than everyone else that gets basically the benefits, especially if it's in terms of this. Virgins get the best husbands. Like, I have no statistics to back that up, but I'm pretty sure that that's correct, simply because high value men and masculine guys want that. They want a woman that doesn't have tons of sexual experience with other guys. Guys want to make sure they find a woman that doesn't have excess baggage. They want to find a woman who doesn't have a lot of physical or mental issues or anything that basically creates, it's like debt. It's like a woman coming into the marriage or coming into the relationship having brought her baggage with her. And everyone has baggage, that's what they say these days. But young virgins who have not entered the sexual market have a lot less baggage than anyone else. And wise guys, okay, so rich, wise guys know that. And they would rather find a girl who has less baggage than someone who has lots of baggage. Does that make sense? So I'm stating this because if you learn in sex ed at school, oh, masturbation is fantastic and you should do it immediately because it has so many benefits to it. And, oh, sex outside of marriage, as long as it's with someone that you feel comfortable with and blah, blah, blah. And they're basically telling you to lose your virginity at 15, 16. Because they're starting sexual education earlier and earlier. And the people who are teaching those sex ed classes basically are trying to justify their teenage actions by promoting their behavior to the class. And so women in that case are starting earlier and earlier and earlier to engage in that kind of activity. Another way to remain virgin is homeschooling. I just basically explained it. Instead of hearing it from your school friends, having boys basically introduce you to things like that through drawings and through coarse language and slapping you on the butt and all that stuff, you don't have to go through that with homeschooling. With homeschooling, you can actually get educated on things that actually work and how the world actually works, as long as your parents are kind of sane and kind of good with these things. Another one is no alone time with boys. It's just completely erase it from your system. Oh, there's a guy alone with me? I'm not going to do that. Like, it's not acceptable for you to be in a situation where you are alone with a boy. And that is, of course, even more important if you are, if you're in a relationship with that boy. Now, I'm talking right now to virgins, okay? I'm talking to girls who actually want to stay virgins for as long as possible. And so bear with me. This is just my opinions, my viewpoints. Anyway, another one is avoid the danger of the horizontal. But at the same time, if you're never alone with a guy by yourself, then that's not going to happen anyway. So, not a problem. Why is it so critical that you stay a virgin? The biggest thing is something that I call sexual rejection. Now, this is the rejection that is the worst rejection a woman can get. Women are sexual creatures, and their self-esteem is highly linked to their sexuality and their value in the marketplace. So, if you are rejected by a guy, it's a problem. because you are now emotionally involved with that guy and you being rejected by potentially a low value guy. If he rejects you, that means that you have a lower value than that lower guy in your eyes. You perceive that you have lower value than the guy who sexually rejects you. And that's playing Russian roulette with your emotions. Now, if you get rejected by a high value guy, you would think that it's not a big deal. But you got to remember that women very often believe that they're higher than men, which they are, okay? I agree with that. Women are amazing. And when kept in their femininity, like, they're the most amazing motivation and reward for men, okay, in a loving, committed relationship. But if a high value guy even rejects you, it lowers your self-esteem and puts you down and basically creates baggage. So how long should you remain a virgin? Okay, it's taken me a while to explain that, but I think you kind of get the gist of what I'm trying to say. I recommend that you stay a virgin for however long it takes to find the right guy. Women should not be like, they shouldn't participate in serial monogamy. Now, what does that mean? It basically means that you're monogamous with this one guy and then you break up, which, like, probability of that happening if you're not in a long-term committed relationship is like 90% or more. But then your question is, well, how will I ever get into a long-term committed relationship? Well, when you find a guy who is only into long-term committed relationships, where are those guys? That's what I'm showing you with this channel. We're going to find those guys for you. I'm doing that other channel, remember? And we're going to find those guys that are long-term committed. And you'll be surprised how many guys are long-term committed to make things work with one woman and set it up correctly. So, okay, so in terms of that, having that weight is important. Are you going to be sexually frustrated during that period? Well, it depends. I will say one thing about that. The more feminine you are, and the less burdens you have in your life, very often your menstruation, your puberty, your reproductive cycle development, it doesn't start before later than you think. The more burdened you are, the earlier that starts. It might have something to do with evolutionary psychology of some sort, when in the old days, if a woman had her period at a very early time, that basically showed that she was burdened, and it shows that the parents were not capable of unburdening their daughter, and therefore the daughter should be given in marriage to someone who can unburden her. That's my viewpoint on it. So if a girl is unburdened, then her puberty and her period will come at a later stage. So it's a positive thing if you haven't had your menstruation when you're 16, 17, 18. Now, at 18, most probably you'll, like 99% of women have it before they're 18, okay? So at that moment in time, if you're sexually frustrated during those years between 15, 16, 17, 18, my personal take on this, because I believe in the fact that women should allow themselves to express their emotions and to enjoy the now and to smell the flowers, and they shouldn't discipline themselves. In line with that, I'm stating something very controversial in my kind of conservative way of thinking, and that is that I personally believe that women should be very comfortable with themselves sexually, with themselves. So in my opinion, masturbation and self-pleasuring is a great thing for a girl if she can do it in a controlled manner. Like, what I would do, I would make sure that I didn't start earlier than necessary. But once you do start, then you should be able to do it in a controlled fashion so that it's not an addiction, something you have to do on a daily basis or else you can't survive and live normally. But that you do it in kind of measures and do it in a balanced way. And that that you kind of find your own rhythm in that sense. Like, why am I, as a guy, needing to tell young girls this, okay? It's almost wrong, and I kind of agree with that. But at the same time, who else is going to tell you this? Who in the feminist movement is going to tell you how to prepare yourself to be with a long-term committed husband? Like, who else is going to tell you about family and the beauty of it? And the beauty of actually setting yourself up for success long-term, finding a rich guy long-term. All the feminists out there who make sexual tantra videos and all that stuff that's out there basically are focused on you enjoying your sexual self and having sex with guys. I'm against you having sex with guys until you find the right guy. And in order for that to happen, we don't want to have your sexuality, like if you're very religious and your sexuality increases exponentially during this time frame of your teens, then it would be better for you to masturbate and self-pleasure in order to keep it on a normal level. Because if you don't, it's gonna continuously increase and you might not have control over it once guys get introduced to you and you want to be with that guy, and basically everything becomes a mess. So that's why I recommend the masturbation could actually be a positive thing if it's done in a controlled fashion and you're unburdened, or it unburdens you, and you can find a way of keeping that going. So this might be fun for you guys. It's not fun for me, but I really struggled making this video, but at the same time, like I said, it's very critical, very important, and you have to know this. Women are sexual creatures, and women of high value are highly sexual creatures, but only for their one guy. So for them to practice their sexuality on their own, in their own bedroom, the way that they want, I encourage that, because that will prepare her for sexuality at a later point in time. There's nothing wrong with sex. Sex is a fantastic thing. It's beautiful. And it's one of life's greatest pleasures that should be treasured. It's not shame, like it's not filled with shame. It's not sinful. That's not the reason why the rules of the universe or God put it there. He put it there so that you could prepare yourself for your long-term husband. So put in simple terms, not bringing in religion and all that stuff, just simply prepare yourself for an amazing life with an amazing high-value guy who you can trust, who trusts you, and to create an amazing family out of that. So that's the Women of High Value channel for you. Make sure you subscribe and like this video if I provided any value whatsoever. If I'm completely off base and I have no idea what I'm talking about, make sure you comment down below, because we need to spur this movement on. And I'll see you again tomorrow.